Ken and Trish have always come off as one of the most stable, drama-free couples in all of Huntsville. Calm, composed, and seemingly untouchable by the chaos that swirls around other cast members, at least on the surface. But behind the curated Instagram posts, the coordinated outfits, and the polite smiles, things aren't nearly as perfect as they appear. Word from insiders is that tiny cracks are starting to show, and those cracks, they're growing. Lately, Ken's been distant. At group events, he has been zoning out, barely contributing to conversations, looking more checked out than ever. Meanwhile, Trish has been doing her best to keep things afloat, smiling through events, dodging questions, putting on a brave face, but that mask slipped during a private off-camera dinner that no one saw coming. Trish finally addressed the elephant in the room, asking Ken why he's been so emotionally detached. She wanted comfort, maybe even an apology. What she got instead, a raw confession that changed everything. Ken admitted he wasn't tired of her. He was tired of pretending, tired of the pressure, tired of holding everything together while quietly unraveling inside. It wasn't the dramatic outburst some might expect, but it hit harder than any screaming match could. That quiet moment forced them both to admit something they'd been avoiding. Their marriage wasn't just in a rough patch, it was teetering on the edge. While Ken and Trish were dealing with this emotional storm behind closed doors, another one was building. And fast. Letitia, Kimmi, and Nell seemed all smiles on screen, posting pictures and playing nice, but beneath the surface, phone calls were going unanswered, alliances were shifting, and whispers were turning into accusations. The spark, a comment Nell made to Kimmi about something she noticed between Ken and Trish. What she meant as concern, Letitia took as something much sharper, something personal. Letitia felt blindsided, maybe even betrayed. She confronted Nell, expecting clarity, but instead walked into an emotional landmine. Kimmi tried to play peacemaker, but her involvement only made Letitia feel even more cornered. What started as a small misunderstanding exploded into full-on chaos, so intense that production had to shut down filming and step in. That night became a major turning point. The vibe shifted. Letitia, voice calm but tone, razor sharp, stepped to Nell first. You know the kind of calm that screams a storm is coming? That was it. Kimmi jumped in to try and de-escalate things, but Letitia felt like the two of them had teamed up behind her back. Nell tried to explain herself, saying she never meant to stir anything up, but by then, the emotional floodgates were open, and no one was hearing each other clearly anymore. The fallout immediate and messy. Letitia stormed out first, angry, hurt, and replaying the betrayal over and over in her head. Kimmi was left pacing, visibly rattled, trying to figure out how everything had spun so far out of control. Nell, usually the calmest one in the room, broke down in private, heartbroken that her words had caused this much pain. And while the women were trying to process their emotions, the men were off having their own conversation. And let's just say, they weren't all sympathetic. Some thought the women were blowing things out of proportion. Others suggested that this drama had been simmering beneath the surface for months, and this incident just brought it all to the top. A few even hinted that some cast members have been harboring resentment long before tonight. But it didn't stop there. Rumors began swirling that someone unexpected, publicly took sides. That move alone set off a chain reaction across social media. Fans were shook. Loyalty lines were being drawn. And just as the internet began dissecting the drama, Ken and Trish quietly exited the building. But it wasn't just a walk to the car, it was a symbol. Trish stood near the passenger door, silent and still, while Ken lingered by his side, clearly struggling to find the right words. And when he finally looked her in the eye and said, "I don't know if we're okay anymore," the silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't a breakup, but it wasn't a promise to fix things either. And sometimes, silence can say more than any fight ever could. That moment went viral. Fans were shook. Speculation exploded. And then came the twist. No one saw coming. Kimmi dropped the bombshell. Marcello's cheating scandal exposed. For weeks, fans had been whispering about it, sensing that something was off, but nobody had proof. Kimmi, known for her loyalty and level-headedness, finally broke her silence. And what she revealed, it wasn't just gossip, it was a game changer. All those perfect photos, the smiling appearances, the couple goals image, cracked wide open.